In the past, expensive vet bills meant that being homeless made it nigh on impossible to get your dog treated if it got sick or injured. But one charity, StreetVet, is trying to change that.
They give their time to help people who are unable to help themselves or support their own pets. 2 years ago tomorrow, I lost my old flat. You feel isolated from life, from society, and my only responsibility in life to look after my dog, and I've still got my dog.
I had a problem with my dog and I couldn't get any vets to see her. Terrible. Thank God for these, really, for street vets, because otherwise my dogs wouldn't get seen at all.
How have they been? Been all right? I've not seen you for a while.
Yeah, they've been all right.
Trained vet Jade Stat helped start the charity 4 years ago.
And I met a homeless gentleman with his dog, and he was just so worried. The dog had some bad skin, basically. And I was sort of asking him how he was going to get it seen to, and he just looked like, yeah, just helpless. I just walked away going, right, okay, if I had stuff in my bag, I could have helped that guy. Anything that you can do in a consulting room, you can do in the street. So, we have a backpack, it's pretty big.
Sorry, I put them in the top.
We can give out medication, so painkillers, antibiotics. We can check eyes, ears.
We have around 500 volunteers performing these outreaches across the country. Recruitment of vets was really easy, and the team has just continued to grow and grow ever since. And we're just about getting close to 1,000 animals treated.
The charity now works in 16 towns and cities across the UK. 3 times a week, these vets take to the streets of the capital, often walking miles to check on the health and welfare of the dogs of homeless people. Gabriel Galia is one of their original volunteers.
Look in your ears, nice and clean. Hey! He's all healthy and he's tangled up in my microphone.
In the vast majority of cases, dogs are happy and healthy, and really that surprised me. I was expecting to be treating fleas and dog bites and all manner of other conditions, which really, to be honest, in the majority of cases the owners do such a phenomenal job of looking after their dogs that we're just there as a safety net.
If you decide you want her to be neutered, let us know and we can do that very easily. If you neuter them when they're still young, it makes it less likely that they will get breast cancer.
Gabriel and his team have already been on the streets for 3 hours by this time, treating dogs and consulting their owners. Jo Grenfell is another regular volunteer.
I'm a veterinary nurse and I was living up in Scotland. When I came back down to London, it suddenly hit me how much homelessness there was. As a nurse, you're quite useful to hold the animals for the vet if they're a bit boisterous, or run urine tests, take bloods. Lots of cuddles and giving attention and getting the dogs to trust you is a big thing.
Although a lot of the vet's work is routine, they do also perform life-saving operations. Phil Bradshaw now lives on this boat with his staffy Lucky, but was homeless when he discovered something nasty when he was grooming her.
I was just sort of, giving her a belly rub as I do, and found a lump, and I can't believe I missed it actually because it was so big. I did take her to a vet actually, and they did say that just to even do the preliminaries were going to be at least sort of £800. So it was definitely out of my means, and a bit worried I wouldn't be able to get it done. And one day Jade from StreetVet took a look at Lucky in a really lovely, graceful way and offered to help Lucky and cover all expenses.
She had the mass removed, which was removed in its entirety, and she hasn't had any more since then. I guess if it had been left, what tends to happen, unfortunately, with these is that even if they are non-cancerous, they can change to become cancerous in that period of time, but they can get bigger and bigger.
Absolutely everything Lucky is. Jade came along and healed Lucky for me. It just filled me up again. When you're on the streets and you have nothing, you tend to go very cold amongst people and all sorts of things. She's a shoulder to lean on, an absolute rock, and I couldn't imagine being without her.
So Lucky has been a lifeline to Phil. But for many homeless dog owners, their much-needed loyal friends can actually stop them from getting roofs over their heads.
A dog for someone who's living on the street can be such a positive influence and be so important in getting them back on track. But at the same time, that dog can be a real barrier, because a lot of accommodation, a lot of hostels, which is often the stepping stone towards a new life and a fixed accommodation, unfortunately don't accept dogs.
In London, very few homeless hostels accept dogs, making the battle to find accommodation even harder for most rough sleeping dog owners.
I was sleeping in an abandoned car. They said, if you get rid of the dogs, we've got a place for you. I said, no, I'm not interested. I've lost everything else. I'm not losing him. I probably put more on his life than human life because people always have an agenda. These guys don't. They just want you to love them, feed them, that's it.
Alex is now housed, so is one of the lucky ones. Big issue seller Brian was homeless for many years and came up against the same problems.
A lot of hostels just won't even entertain you if you've got dogs. Or because they're street dogs, they think they're not house trained or they're going to be problems or something. I don't know. But yeah, I've had bad problems.
But good news here in Hemel Hempstead. The Elms is a hostel run by the charity Dens and works closely with StreetVet, so does allow dogs.
I was engaged, 2 kids, and then depression and anxiety and everything was problems that I have, mental illnesses and everything. So we had to split up, left me homeless. People were saying, no, get rid of the dog. It's like getting rid of one of the kids. It's not going to happen. And luckily, I got in here with Susie.
There are a lot of rough sleepers and a lot of homeless people that their dog is really the only stability they have in their life. And we certainly weren't going to be in a position where we were going to refuse people entry because they couldn't have their dog. This hostel will support clients on average for 3 months with the focus on moving on to more independent accommodation after that.
And that's exactly what they did for Ian Shaw. He was living on the streets and suffering from mental health problems, so thought he would have to give up his cockapoo Bez because he worried for her safety.
It broke my heart. I thought I was days away from giving her away. I would have done it because it would have been the right choice for me because I couldn't have her living on the street. First of all, they took the dog in, which was a big thing when you're at your lowest, as a companion. They gave me the sort of safety net when I wasn't in a fit mental state or I didn't feel I was in a fit mental state to support myself, giving me the safety net and the counselling and the time to find a bit of emotional stability to start rebuilding my life, which I am doing at the moment. Been lucky enough that council provided me with a small flat. I've been working part-time for about 4 months and currently I'm doing nights with the Royal Mail.
So having a dog and being homeless doesn't have to last forever. As well as treating the dogs of vulnerable homeless people, these vets believe that there should be many more hostels and shelters allowing dogs in, and that they could even be StreetVet accredited, which would at least go a small way to solving London's homeless problem.
Ultimately, a dog in an accommodation is going to bring with it challenges. However, I think if it's done properly with the right support and developed in the right way with proper structure and services to provide space for those dogs to live safely, I think that at least a couple should be able to be accepted into most accommodations.
Not everybody does like dogs. Some people might be scared of dogs, so there has to be very defined areas where the dogs can go and not go, so people know there's not going to be a dog coming into that room. You need to keep them away, health and safety, away from food. There is quite a lot of thought that has to go into making a hostel dog friendly.
We'd do free veterinary checks, make sure that they didn't have any parasites, for example, that they could be bringing into the hostel, and we could help select the appropriate owners and the appropriate dogs to live in those accommodations rather than a blanket ban on all animals.